Okay, I need to know something. For those of you that are married, how did you get your significant other to see the value in getting engaged and getting married?
All right, you ready for this? Come closer. You need to leave it.
How can I convince my partner, my boyfriend, that we should get married? What can I say? What can I do to make him propose to me? Like, what are the things I need to do? I need advice. This was what this lady said on her page. She came to TikTok and she made a video and she was like, you all, if you propose or somebody has proposed to you, you are married, you are engaged, how did you convince your partner to engage you? As a woman, how did you convince your partner to engage you? This question she asked. And I'm like, eh? Are we supposed to convince our partner to engage us? Maybe they're supposed to engage us without convincing them. I got confused until I started seeing stitches and everything. First, let me show you all the video first. Then I'll be back at the end of the video.
It hurts me to even be posting this, but I have waited so long for those things and they haven't happened yet. He can't see this video. I totally blocked him. But girl to girl, what are some of the things that you did to accomplish that? Because I'm really struggling to get him to see my perspectives and how much marriage would mean to me. I love this man and we have built so much together and I don't want to leave him, but at the same time, I don't have those things that I have been asking for, and he says it's really selfish of me to ask for them. So I don't know. Help a girl out. I need some advice. Let me know.
To me, it's giving that she's not happy. She's tired of dating. She wants to get married, but guys, he's not ready to get married to her. She needs that marriage so bad, and guys, like, you know what? We are together. What's the difference between us being together now and us being married? There's no difference at all. So why should we, right? And it's giving she's not happy and she just need a way out. Like, she's, in fact, she said she even had to block him for him not to see this post because she needs advice. Ew. The fact that you're coming to ask random people advice on how to convince your boyfriend to propose to you, to make you see that you guys need to get married, girl, I'm gonna hold your hands and say this: he's not going to marry you. Like, he's not ready to marry you. He doesn't want to marry you. He doesn't see you as his wife. And that there's no amount of conviction. And I feel like if she convinced him enough, he might eventually marry her. But then, will she be happy? I have interesting reactions, both male and female, reacting to this post, trying to tell us how she can convince her partner. Somebody telling her to leave. Somebody like, see, he's not going to work out like that. Somebody saying, just wait for him. Like, a lot of advice. But then I'd like to ask you, how can you convince? Is it right for you to convince a partner to get married to you if he doesn't see you? If he's not seeing the marriage, is it right for you to? Abi, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section respectfully as always. Let's go ahead and watch the stitches together, and I'm about to share my thoughts at the end of the video.
For those of you that are married, how did you get your significant other to see the value in getting engaged and getting married?
Ask you a random question. When you proposed to me, did you feel like I had to convince you to do that, or did you want to do that on your own?
No, I wanted to.
Why?
Why would you? I don't need convincing.
I know, but I was watching a TikTok where a girl was like, hey, what did you do to get your boyfriend, or what are some things I could do to get my boyfriend to convince him that we should get married because they've been in a long-term relationship? So, like, we were in a, I'm not gonna say long-term, but we were in a relationship. Basically, what the dude is saying, like, we're already together, why do we have to get married? So, like, what was your reasoning?
I mean, I liked it, so I put a ring on it. No, I mean, I wanted to commit to being with you forever.
Did you think?
I didn't want to not be with you.
Did you think, like, marriage was the only way to go about it? Or did you, like, you're happy to be married? Like, do you think being married versus...
I love being married.
Oh, really?
I love being married to you. And, sorry, I thought, and I wanted to show that commitment. show you that commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Just because of what she said.
No.
I just thought it was an
feel like-
interesting take.
I feel like if you have to be convinced to marry somebody, then you probably shouldn't. Or it's an indication that you don't want to.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
How did you get your significant other to see the value in getting engaged?
Okay, since you asked, I'm going to tell you, girl to girl, this is the secret. I have been married now 11 years. My husband and I just celebrated our 11-year wedding anniversary, and I think we're very happy. Now, this one's just for the ladies, okay? So, gentlemen, I'm going to have to ask you to leave, please. Thank you very much. All right, you ready for this? Come closer. You need to leave him. This man doesn't want to marry you, and I am struggling to find a nice way to say this, so I'm just going to say it. Like, I'm sorry that there is no witchcraft. There's nothing that you can say or do that's going to make him step up and, like, want to be that man that you want him to be. And I know that it's hard because you're in love with him and you don't want to have to leave. But the problem is that, like, it is that fear of leaving that he is going to use to waste your time. And why is he wasting your time? Well, I'm glad you asked. See, you said that you guys have built together, but in reality, what's happening from his perspective is that he is building himself up into the man that he would like to be, that he imagines like is his best version of himself. And he is using you to do that. And he probably looks at you and thinks, I don't know if this is like as good as I can do. Like, maybe I can do better. And that is absolutely not a reflection on you because you're beautiful, okay? And I'm sure you're amazing. But you deserve a man who looks at you and sees that, who says, like, this is the ultimate, like, woman of my dreams. And that man, I promise you, would never drag his feet to marry you. Like, a man who you've been with for a while now, if he's not marrying you, it's because he doesn't want you. And if you stay and continue to sort of bring it up casually and try to convince him, like, eventually, he might come around, okay? You might get the marriage, but I promise you it will never be a truly happy marriage. I have seen it play out like so many times, okay? And this is why I give the advice that I give, because I see what happens at the end of that story, and it's not pretty, okay? You're better off leaving him now, crying about it, picking up the pieces, and moving on while you're still young, you still have time, you know, trust me, you like 10, 15 years from now, future you will thank you. Because you either do the hard thing now or later. And trust me, later is harder. And if you do leave, heed my words. Next time, do not build with a man who is not your husband. Because, see, I bet you are giving him everything he needs, okay? This man is probably getting everything he needs from this relationship, and you are not getting what you want and what you need. And that is a mistake. You deserve better. So there's absolutely no reason why you need to give 110% to a man who isn't willing to marry you. You don't need him. You can build your own life yourself and become your absolute best dream version of yourself all on your own. And then you will find a man who will love you so much that he can't wait to marry you. And you won't need to come up on here and ask advice about how you can convince a man to want to marry you. Okay? So I will pray for you, and I hope that you find the love that you deserve.
Another to see the value in getting engaged and getting married.
I'm going to do this in one take. So set the scene. It's February 2020, right? Pre-mask mandate, right? I'm driving home from the gym and bam, taxi hits me, right? Taxi, it just ran into somebody's yard, hit a fence, had to get a new car, right? Needed a new car. Insurance told me I had 4 days to get a new car. And so I ran to the nearest Toyota dealership, right? And I'm like, I need a Prius, right? Give me that Prius. And they're like, we have one Prius, right? We'll give you this one Prius. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's go see it. And it was the bluest fucking car I've ever seen in my life, right? I'm in it right now. It's the bluest car, right? And they're like, and you can see kind of the blue. See, that's the color it is, right? That's the color of blue that this car is, okay? So I have to buy a car and I cannot make financial decisions, right? Especially like really, really big financial decisions. And so I'm like, honey, I need you to come. I need you to come sit with me through this. Hold my hand, right? And so he comes to the Toyota dealership. I'm sitting with this guy and we're talking about buying this car. And I'm like signing paperwork at this point. And my husband's like, I gotta go get our kid, right? I gotta go get our daughter. And I'm like, okay, well, go get the daughter, go get our daughter. That's more important. So he leaves. Then this man looks me dead ass in the eye, right? And he's all like, did you propose to him? And I was like, what? And I'm like, okay, I made a fatal error, right? And sometimes people call me out on it. And this guy was calling me out. He's like, he was just saying, your husband's hotter than you, right? Well, how did the math ain't mathin', right? Why him? Why you? And so I was like, no. And so anyway, he's like, wow, you gotta how many kids do you guys got? And I'm like, we just have the one together. And he's like, you gotta get baby making, right? I've never met this man in my life, and he's telling me I gotta start cranking out my husband's kids because he thinks he's the hottest guy, right? Like, and my husband's attractive, but it was kind of overboard. It was like, you got to start making more of that man, right? And I was just sitting there absolutely dumbfounded at what this conversation was. And let me just say, I did not look good, right? I'll admit, I did not look good. I was up for hours, like longer than I should have been. And I got in a car accident recently, and it was raining, and my hair does this weird flippy thing when it gets wet and dries. It's weird. So yeah, maybe I didn't look my best that day, but man, it really called me out. And yeah, I lied to him. I did propose to Paul. God damn it.
Okay, I need to know something. For those of you that are married,
what makes a marriage work? What makes a marriage strong? This is something I think a lot of people ask themselves, especially when you're still single. You see married people around you. Hey, how are you guys together? What is the strength of your relationship and your partnership? Well, for me, it's not defined by the minor disagreements or even the good times, because it's easy to have a good time together. It is in life's most challenging and pressing moments, can you and your partner immediately be on the same page to overcome whatever disaster may be in front of you? Yesterday, that disaster unfolded in my life. I'm repainting my garage upstairs with a 5-gallon bucket of paint. And my wife says, hey babe, can you come downstairs so we can look at some other paint colors, because we're repainting our home and, you gotta see what the paint looks like on the walls. So I go downstairs. My wife is holding our 2-year-old, and our 4-year-old comes downstairs with us to help out. And he's by my side. Now, as I'm painting the wall, making sure it doesn't drip, because you don't want it to drip, even with the little paint samples, you have to be kind of delicate with it. I realize my son has been out of sight for 10 to 15 seconds. And if you know any 4-year-old, 10 to 15 seconds is 10 to 15 seconds too long. So I put down my paint sample and I walked upstairs to the garage, where I found my 4-year-old son with a toilet plunger, plunging a 5-gallon bucket of paint. Now, if you've never witnessed a 4-year-old plunge a 5-gallon bucket of paint, imagine this with a plunger and the type of hydraulic force that a 4-year-old can exert on a 5-gallon bucket of paint in just 5 seconds is something that would absolutely blow your mind. Now, did it make the most incredible mess that I've ever seen in my entire life? That answer definitively is yes. And in that moment, I knew I would be doing several hours of messy cleanup, and there was nothing I could do about it, at which point my 4-year-old thought he was doing something hilarious. So, covered in paint, he decided to run around everywhere. Now, you might think to yourself, Shane, that sounds like it made an even bigger mess. A 4-year-old covered in paint running everywhere? Yes, Yes, it did. It was a disaster. But in that moment, my wife and I were able to navigate life's most challenging situation. Now I'll go through all the details, but that's what partnership is all about. Partnership is about immediately being able to come together, get on the same page in even the most disastrous situation, and solve a problem, because life is hard, but it's harder when you don't have a partner. Also, general life tip: never, ever, ever allow a plunger and a 5-gallon bucket of paint and a 4-year-old to be anywhere near each other. These are lessons you learn in life. Have a great day.
To get him to see my perspectives and how much marriage would mean to me.
If you have to get your partner excited about marriage, like to get engaged, to be married to you, to do the whole thing, it's just going to end in divorce. Do not let the boyfriend that you have now stop you from meeting the love of your life. There are so many people that think that they just have to be with this person, whatever person it is. They have to be with them for whatever reason. No, you don't. If they don't make you happy, if they don't do the things that show you that they love you, they don't. I'm married to the love of my life. I didn't have to get her excited for it. I go above and beyond for her. So maybe that's what you got to look for. Somebody that's willing to go above and beyond what you desire. Because if you marry something less than that, it's not going to make you happy. You're not happy now. I can tell you're not happy now. You love him so much. Yeah, I can tell you love him. You'd have to love him to stay with him. Just find yourself a better man. It's okay. You can be alone. You can work on yourself. Find a better man. It's not that big of an issue. You're young. You could do it. You got time.
Other to see the value in getting engaged and getting married.
Hi, friends.
It's okay to be
I
alone.
was in a very similar situation a decade ago. I had dated a man for about 5 years. We had a house together. We had a whole life together. And whenever I'd bring up marriage, he would tell me, not yet. He'd have all the excuses in the world. And then we broke up. And the very next woman he dated, he ended up marrying. Then I met my husband a couple years later. And after our third date, he knew I was his wife and he started saving up for my engagement ring. A man knows. And that's why they say if a man wanted to, he would. I wasted so much time in that first relationship trying to convince this man that I was good enough to marry when it was never in the books to begin with. I was never going to be that option for him. And I'm honestly so much better off. Honestly, we both are. Because now I've met a man who, when I tell him my needs, such as, hey, I want to get married, he would never consider that selfish. Your future husband is out there. It might not be your boyfriend. And that hurts to acknowledge, and it takes a lot to admit. But your future husband's out there, and when he meets you, he's going to want to lock it down. He's going to want to propose and put a ring on it. Because when a man finds the woman for him, he locks. Don't let your current boyfriend prevent you from finding your husband and happiness. Because you deserve to be happy, and you deserve to find a man who treats you right and loves you the way you want to be loved.
How did you get your significant other to see the value in getting?
I got pregnant. I'm kidding. This is baby number 3. I did get pregnant after only knowing him or dating him for about 2 months. But I didn't have to convince him of anything. I didn't have to convince him to be a part of my life and the baby's life. I didn't have to convince him to eventually get married. I didn't have to convince him. It wasn't even that long. It was like after 2 years. I didn't have to convince him to say I love you. I didn't have to convince him to buy a house. I didn't have to show my value for him to want to do those things because he wanted to be with me. And we've talked about this before. He and I both agree that even if we hadn't had the kids, although the timeline probably would have been stretched quite a bit, we really do both believe that we would be together. We have so much fun with and without our kids, and we want to be in each other's lives, and we want to be there for each other in whatever capacity that means for each person.
How did you get your significant other to see the value in getting engaged?
It was very early on that me and my husband learned that we were the one for each other. And it became increasingly obvious that we wanted to spend the rest of our lives together and that we wanted to get married. Now, When we met, I was 19 and he was 20, turning 21. And when we finally got together, I was turning 20 and he was 21. So we were pretty young. But he gave me a promise ring at about 6 months into our relationship, and it was the most treasured piece of my jewelry collection up until I got my engagement ring, of course, and my wedding ring, and then later my self-love ring. But that's a different story. I guess I never had to do any convincing that I wanted to get married and that he wanted to get married. We just kind of knew it in our hearts. We felt it deep within our being. I knew in myself that I felt like he was the one. Like, there was just like a download. Like, within a few months before we even started dating, I'm like, he's my person. And I felt it deep within my soul. And I had to win him over a little bit because we were friends at first. So there was a little bit of courting that happened. But ultimately, it was a no-brainer. I understand for many that it's not this simple. There's actually a greater conversation that needs to happen, and that sometimes you're dating for 5, 6, 10 years and you're not getting engaged or having marriage be on the horizon. And to that I say, evaluate what really is what you want. Understand your wants and needs. And if you want to get married and your partner doesn't want to, then there's something wrong there. Because whether you like it or not, you're not on the same page. And you probably aren't on the same page about other things in your relationship or in your life together. So it's very important to get on the same page or reevaluate the relationship and decide if you want to be in it at all. So my advice is this: have open communication with your partner. Make sure that you're constantly sharing your emotions and all that is on your heart, and hope that they communicate back, that they respond in a positive and encouraging way and a supportive way. And that should always be enough. But know your self-worth and know that you deserve to be married if you so choose to be. So you'll find someone that wants to be married, and that will be a good thing.
Those of you that are married, how did you get your significant other to see the value?
Honey, there is nothing that you can do or you should have to do to prove your worth, like as far as marriage material to someone who you've been with. I'm a full believer in a man either wants to get married or he does not want to get married to you. He either wants to marry you or he does not, and there's not really an in-between, and there's not really convincing involved. Plus, you seem very pretty and very nice. You deserve somebody that you don't have to convince that they want to marry you and be with you forever. Like, you should not have to convince that man. So, my husband and I are coming up next week on our 8-year wedding anniversary. He proposed to me 2 months after we started dating. We had one conversation about marriage at all. And it was just like, is marriage something that you would want? And I was like, yeah, I would like to be married. And that was fucking it. And it was probably 2 weeks later he proposed to me. And our 8-year wedding anniversary is coming up. So there's not any convincing. They either want to be married to you or they do not, and it just seems like you deserve a lot better.
How did you get your significant other to see the value in getting engaged?
I'm going to say this with all the love in my heart to you. You don't have to do anything but give your all in a relationship. Because if they want to, they will. I have been with my spouse for 13 years, and we've been married almost 11. He proposed to me in a doctor's office when I was at my absolute worst. He literally just said the words after the doctor gave me my diagnosis of, we can get married. And we did 8 days later. That showed me that man was going to be there for rich or poor, through sickness and health, till death do us part. And he took those vows very seriously and has till this day. When your partner wants to be with you and wants to commit to you, they absolutely will. They will do whatever they want to for you, and they will do everything for you. You don't have to prove anything.
How did you get your significant other to see the value in getting engaged?
I remember, this actually reminds me, I remember almost a year. Yeah, almost a year. Oh my gosh. Almost a year before I met my husband. I was dating this guy, and we talked about marriage, but he said it was going to be years. He said it was literally going to be years before he would even think about getting married. But I was like, okay, cool, because he was a doctor. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just, stick it out for years. And then he broke up with me. And then a year later, I met my husband, my now husband. And 3 months after that, we were looking at rings. So when they say, like, don't let your boyfriend keep you from your husband, they're not lying.
How did you get your significant other to see the value in getting engaged?
If you haven't watched that video, please go back and watch it. Essentially, she's asking other married women how they got their partners to see the value in marriage. And honestly, we're asking the wrong questions, everybody. We're asking the wrong questions. Better questions to ask is, does he see marriage as being important to him? When does he want to get married? Does he want to have children before he gets married, or does he not care about having children before he gets married, or does he want to wait until after? Is there something that he's waiting to accomplish before they get married? What does he want out of life? Those are better questions to ask rather than putting it, does he not see value in me? Sometimes we're reading the same book on different chapters. We both want to get married, just not right now. And other times we're not reading the same book at all. Alignment is key. We got to start asking better questions. What do you guys think?
Those of you that are married, how did you get your significant other to see the value in getting engaged and getting married?
Hi there. Yeah, don't try to figure out a sales pitch to convince him to marry you. If he wants to, if he's all about that life, he's going to dive in, he's going to figure out a way. If he doesn't, he's going to drag his feet. And I say that as someone who's done both. I've been a feet dragger. I was in a relationship for about 4.5 years in my 20s, and whenever the conversation around marriage came up, I would get silent and or wouldn't want to talk about it. And then when that relationship ended, I met my now wife, and I've been with her for 11 years. I proposed as quickly as I possibly could, and we've got 3 kids together. It's been the best decision I've ever made. Now, I don't know all the details of your relationship, how long you guys have been together, how many conversations around marriage have been had, how willing he has sounded despite little action on his part, so I'm not going to judge either way. But I know from experience that if it's something that your heart is calling you to do, to get married, if it's something that you want to do, you're going to do it. You're not going to need a sales pitch to make that decision. And for your part, I assume that you would like to get married to someone who's as excited about it as you are. You don't want to have to drag them down the aisle just to say I do so that you are married. You want to marry someone that's all in, just like you are. So, wishing you both the best. Just trust your gut, okay?
Significant other to see the value in getting engaged and getting married.
These are my thoughts and opinions coming from someone that's not married, not engaged. But I think the biggest issue is lack of communication between partners. When you get into a relationship, you have to make your wants and your needs extremely clear to the other person. If one of those desires is to get married, have kids, that has to be verbalized from the very beginning. There are a lot of people out there that genuinely don't want to get married. It's just their own personal belief. They might feel like it's just a piece of paper, as long as they're happy with someone, they're happy with them, they'll commit to them for the rest of their life, but they feel like they might not need that marriage certificate to validify their feelings for someone. And that's perfectly fine. But if you are someone that doesn't find that acceptable, that you don't want to be in a long-term relationship where you're just boyfriend and girlfriend the rest of your life, you need to make that extremely clear, even from the very first date. If you are dating to marry, you need to make that clear. And I think because there's so much lack of communication in relationships today, that's why there's so many people that are kind of just like, hanging on and settling for things that truly don't make them happy. The hardest pill to swallow is that sometimes the other person may not see a future with you. And sometimes people have a very hard time of just cutting ties and ending the relationship when they don't see it going anywhere. And that just ends up hurting both people so much more at the end because you grow an attachment to the other person, right? And when you drag things on, it just gets worse from there. The last thing that you want is to ever pressure your partner into doing something that they're not ready to do or something that they don't want to do. It's going to hurt you guys so bad in the end. You don't want a shut up ring. You want a ring that comes with genuine intent, that comes from love from the other person. Sometimes, their timeline might be a little bit different from yours, even if you guys truly are meant to be together. But don't pressure the other person. You just need to make your true feelings very valid. You need to make the other person understand what you want. And if they can't, accommodate that, if that's not something that they see for their life, you might just not be meant to be together. And like I mentioned, that's a very hard pill to swallow.
For those of you that are married, how did you get your significant other to see the value in getting engaged and getting married? Girl to girl, what are some of the things that you did to accomplish that? Because I'm really struggling to get him to see my perspectives and how much marriage would mean to me.
A man in love doesn't have to be convinced of anything. He doesn't have to be convinced to marry you, to plan dates, to buy you flowers, to spend more time with you. If he sees that there is something that you want and it's within his power to do so, he will do it, unprompted. But a man will waste as much time as you will let him waste. And a lot of times men know that if they dangle the carrot of marriage in front of you, they can get years out of you, sometimes kids out of you, sometimes money out of you, sometimes a place to stay out of you. This is another example of how women end up with a shut up ring. You shouldn't have to give a man who loves you an ultimatum. If he wanted to, he would. So now that you know that you're not on the same page about it, what are you going to do? Give him a few more of your good years? If the option to leave a relationship, if it's no longer serving you, is not an option for you, you're not ready for a relationship.
If he wanted to, he would. I feel like he's not ready to get married to her. He will not marry her. And I feel like when he gets to a stage, as a woman, when he gets to a stage in a relationship, you want marriage. Because it's not everybody that wants to get married. You want marriage. And the guy that you are dating is telling you, actually, I'm not ready. Actually, leave him. Leave him. There's no need for you to start convincing him. There's no need for you to start trying to be a wife material, trying to build with him, trying to, when you start want to convince a man to get married to you, a man that is not ready to get married to you, try to do things that are wifely material duty, like cook and clean, be his mom, try to act very nice even though you're not nice. Try to, overlook a lot of things even though you're not supposed to start overlooking a lot of things now that you're not getting married to him. Even sometimes you might even get pregnant for him because you want to prove to him that you want to be with him for the rest of his life. And you don't need it, sis, because I feel like if you have to get to that stage to start convincing a guy that you're dating that you want to get married, it's not the one for you. He's not ready to get married, and don't force it. Because at the point when you start forcing it and when you start, he sees that you're really desperate for it. Sometimes some of these men will just, okay, this is what she wants, let me give it to her. And trust me, that kind of marriage is even worse. Because normally marriage does not favor women, right? We have been saying marriage is a scam, right? But if you now enter the one that you force the man to marry you, it's worse than the one that was not forced, if that makes sense. So it's better for you to, when you know that you want marriage, I want to get married, I want this man to marry me, I'm in this relationship because my end goal is marriage. You have end goal and it's marriage. You've waited for a year and nothing is not going 2 years, nothing is happening. It's not even, and when you even bring up a topic or when something and it's like telling you, I don't want to get married now, and that is what you want, girl, leave, right? You don't need to waste your time with him. But then, I just feel like if a man really wants to get married to you, he knows already, is aware. Because when a man is ready, they are ready. I don't think you need to convince a man to get married. I don't think you need to show or prove to him that you're really a wife material. I don't think you need to do that. They see what they want from you, even without you proving it. And they pick it up and they, get married to you or propose to you, right? I feel like most women that do so much, most women that always try to build with a man, try to have like wife material and all of that, at the end of the day, they get dumped, and the next girl is going to get married, going to date. You end up saying that it's going to marry the girl in 3 months, in 4 months, and you be like, what did I do wrong? Because you kind of feel like you've done everything right for the person to see you as a wife material, but he's not seeing you as a wife material, and you're like, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Da, da, da. Just enjoy the relationship. If your end goal is marriage and the relationship is going more than 2 years and the guy is not saying anything about marriage, girl, leave. But if your end goal is not marriage, it's just for you to enjoy the moment, enjoy the relationship, enjoy everything. If you get married, fine. Eventually you don't, like, you're happy regardless. You can enjoy the relationship regardless, but that doesn't mean that you should start. I personally don't feel like women should, have children before marriage and all of that. I feel like you should get to know the person very, very well before you start having kids. Because some of them will say they want their end goal to be marriage, and they be like, oh, we're already living together. Some of them already start living together with the man, which is wrong for me, right? You start living together, then you start having kids. This kind of men, they won't marry you because there's no difference between you and a wife. You're already doing everything a wife's supposed to do. There's no anticipation. There's no, oh, when I get married to this lady, this is what I'm going to gain. You're already giving him everything free of charge, platter of gold. And he's not even saying what he wants to be like, hey, I can't wait to get married to you. It's just a piece of paper. And that's why you see them coming out to say it's just a piece of paper. Because you have kids for me already. We are living together already. Like, so I just feel like she needs to just leave if she feels like her end goal is marriage and the guy is not saying it. And I don't think she even sounds happy. Just like she doesn't sound like she's really happy because she really wants to get married, but he's not saying it, and she wants to convince him. You know that word, I want to convince you to say that I am the woman for you. Girl, if you eventually convince him, at the end of the day, he will regret it. As I said, marriage doesn't favor women, right? Even if the man was not convinced. But now if the man was convinced to marry you, is worse. So choose your path well. Anyways, what is your take on today's video? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section respectfully. And thank you so much for tuning in today's video. Don't forget to like and share and subscribe. And put on the post notification bell to get notified once I upload another interesting video. And I'll see you all in my next one. Bye.